A mysterious meteorite turns 99% of people into gloomy creatures. The Gardner family moves from the city to a remote farm in New England that used to belong to Nathan's father. After losing his wife to cancer following a mastectomy, Nathan struggles to cope and decides to start fresh. During the day, while the parents are busy with their own tasks, their teenage daughter, Lavinia, heads to the riverbank where she practices occultism. Believing in supernatural forces and performing Wiccan rituals from the Necronomicon, she hopes to help her mother recover quickly from her illness. It's here that she catches the attention of Ward, a hydrologist from Miskatonic University, who has come to study groundwater as part of a plan for a new hydroelectric plant. Slightly embarrassing Lavinia, Ward apologizes for wandering onto private property. Lavinia helps him find the right path and rides home, thinking he's a bit odd but attractive. As he adjusts to life on the farm, Nathan spends his time gardening and raising South American alpacas for their milk. When Lavinia returns home, he scolds her for not wearing shoes and for her strange appearance. Noticing the scene, Teresa defends their daughter and learns that their eldest son has been hanging out with the local hermit, Ezra, and dabbling in drugs. Heading to the barn on horseback, Lavinia finds her older brother and promises not to cover for him anymore if Benny decides to smoke again. On her way back to the house, she spots her younger brother, Jack, who has autism. The boy is standing by the well, peering inside, which worries Lavinia that he might fall in. Trying to explain that it's dangerous, Lavinia persuades Jack to come back inside, reminding him that their dog, Sam, is already waiting for him there. Struggling with the move, the family tries to cope with the stress and stick together, but small issues keep them from enjoying their new life. Nathan has to cook dinner and does it terribly, forcing the family to feed the food to the dog. Lavinia dreams of leaving the farm and doesn't understand why they're raising alpacas for milk when they're primarily used for their wool to make warm clothes. Teresa is recovering from her long ordeal and surgeries but continues to work as a financial consultant, retreating to the attic to do so. Living in the provincial backwoods, she suffers from poor internet quality and fears losing her remaining clients, so she asks her husband to resolve the issue soon. In the evening, the couple discusses their move, trying to understand if they made the right choice. Nathan is most afraid of becoming like his father, who was a tyrant and a terrible man, constantly beating his son. He wants to be a good father, but he knows the kids aren't happy, as they had to leave their friends and way of life behind. Teresa supports her husband during this tough time but remains resistant to compliments, forcing Nathan to endure an uncomfortable kind of restraint. At night, Nathan convinces his wife that she is still beautiful to him, leading the couple to kiss and make love. Meanwhile, something approaches Earth and enters the atmosphere, waking little Jack. He leaves his room and encounters the angry dog, so instead of going to his parents for help, he just sits down on the floor. A moment later, a shiny meteorite crashes into their front yard, emitting a strange color and a foul odor. Scared and hearing Jack scream, the parents rush to calm him and head outside. Soon, the frightened family returns to the house, trying to reassure their youngest son. For several minutes, Jack is silent, but eventually, everything seems to return to normal as if nothing had happened. Teresa is ready to call for an ambulance, but it isn't necessary, and Nathan doesn't help his son, instead pouring himself a glass of whiskey. The next morning, the Mayor Tuma and Sheriff Pierce from the neighboring town of Arkham arrive, accompanied by Ward. Nathan struggles to describe the meteorite's color, as it no longer glows and continues to emit a suffocating smell. No one understands what has happened, but Ward calms them down, considering it a fairly common occurrence. He believes it is a piece of meteorite that, for some reason, didn't burn up in the upper layers of the atmosphere and fell, starting to cool down and lose its properties. Learning that the farmer and his family are not in danger, Sheriff Pierce and Mayor Tuma leave. Nathan notices Lavinia showing interest in the geologist and orders his daughter to go inside. Teresa watches from the window and decides to talk to her daughter. She also noticed Lavinia's attraction to the handsome, educated young man but expresses concern about her vulgar appearance, which deeply offends Lavinia. Ward insists that meteorites are no more dangerous than ordinary rocks and that this one is unlikely to pose a threat. With this reassurance, Nathan calms down and decides to return to his usual activities, asking his son to help milk the alpacas. Despite the safety of the debris and the lack of destruction, Ward decides to speak not only with Nathan's family but also with their reclusive neighbor, Ezra. The old man turns out to be incredibly suspicious and distrustful, surrounding his house with cameras and motion sensors. After meeting the geologist, Ezra offers him coffee, but Ward notices an oily residue. He suspects that the groundwater may have been affected by the meteorite's fall and advises against drinking from the well until he can analyze the water's composition. Soon, it begins to rain, and Lavinia goes outside to watch the flashing lightning. Nathan tries to convince his daughter to come back inside, but at one point, they witness several lightning strikes hitting the meteorite. It seems to attract them, and then it disintegrates into ashes and disappears into a deep pit. Back in his field laboratory, Ward tests the water with strips and notices that they begin to glow brightly. He wants to warn about the potential danger, but his mobile phone isn't working, and strange things are happening around him. The car starts by itself, and he hears noises, as if someone is watching him from a distance. In the morning, the couple notices brightly colored flowers sprouting just a few feet from the meteorite's landing site, growing near the well. Soon, journalists arrive to interview Nathan and shoot a short report about the meteorite fall. In the evening, the family watches the broadcast featuring Nathan and lightly teases him. At the same time, Teresa is preparing dinner and doesn't notice the bloody contents of the eggs. While chopping carrots, she accidentally cuts off 2 fingers but doesn't react at all. This horrific incident only comes to light thanks to Jack, who notices what happened. Leaving Benny in charge and asking him to keep an eye on the alpacas, Nathan and Teresa head to the hospital. The next morning, Benny takes the alpacas out for a walk, but things don't go as planned. The animals become uncontrollable and start eating the leaves, destroying their garden. While the older brother tries to manage the alpacas, Lavinia notices Jack's strange behavior. He is whistling and seems to be waiting for a response, but his sister hears nothing. Jack claims he is communicating with a person living in the well, but Lavinia explains away these oddities as part of Jack's autism. As she returns to the house, Lavinia begins to hear strange sounds and whistles in response to her brother. Believing that something unimaginable and abnormal is happening, Lavinia tries to call her father, but the terrible connection prevents them from hearing each other. Meanwhile, Jack creates strange drawings and approaches the well, where he sees a mutated insect. Lavinia decides to tidy up before their parents return, but she literally freezes in place, unaware that several hours have passed. Coming to her senses, she tries to call her father again, but the connection is still non-existent, and all she hears is noise. Ward visits the family and warns them not to drink the water from the well, but Lavinia can't talk to him due to constant waves of nausea. Noticing that Jack is communicating with someone in the well, the geologist dismisses it and goes to warn Ezra about the terrible state of the water. The old man claims he hears people moving underground. He insists they are aliens and plays a tape recording for Ward, but the geologist hears nothing suspicious. Late in the evening, Nathan and Teresa return home when a mutated animal suddenly rushes past them, startling the couple. Teresa calls the kids, but they don't answer, which raises her concern even more. Jack continues to watch the well and sees color emerging from it. Sam reacts aggressively to the situation and runs away from the house, while Benny returns and tells his sister that he, too, feels lost in time. When their parents get home, they find Jack standing alone outside. While Teresa takes the boy inside to draw and read a bedtime story, Nathan loses his temper with Lavinia and Benny, showing an unprecedented level of anger. He criticizes his son and daughter for their behavior, lack of discipline, and appearance, nearly bringing them to tears. Lavinia wishes she could leave this place, but Benny just broke up with his girlfriend, and they have nowhere to go. A little later, Nathan takes a shower and notices a strange squid-like creature in the drain, which attacks him. This causes him to lose control again, leading to another argument with Teresa. The next morning, Nathan heads to the garden to harvest. Spotting enormous tomatoes, he feels like a child but quickly becomes disillusioned with his success. He works hard to select the right seeds, plant them, and water them, only to end up with a terrible harvest that's inedible. This drives him mad, and Nathan starts throwing tomatoes all over the kitchen. Teresa tries to have a conversation with a client seeking her financial planning services, but the call drops due to the terrible internet connection. She expresses her frustration to Nathan, leading to a heated argument. Trying to relax and distract himself, Nathan decides to watch TV but is met with the irritating face of Tuma. He begins to feel his hands itching and notices his skin toughening, resembling tree bark more and more. At night, Jack wakes up and goes outside, where he meets his older brother. They try to comfort each other when they suddenly hear strange sounds and head toward the barn. Noticing this, Teresa rushes after her sons. Jack and Benny see that something terrible has happened to the alpacas. Their bodies are literally intertwined into a single organism. Color begins to spread, and the brothers try to escape. Teresa picks Jack up in her arms, but at that moment, they are struck by a flash of colored lightning, causing mother and son to merge into a single, mindless entity. Nathan is shocked by what's happening and asks Benny to call for help, but the connection still doesn't work. The mutated creature, made up of Jack and Teresa, doesn't speak but emits horrifying sounds and moans, as if pleading for help. Meanwhile, Lavinia gathers her belongings, hoping to leave the farm soon for a safer place. Noticing a spell book among the clothes, she decides to perform a bloody ritual, hoping it will protect their home from evil forces. Following all the rules, Lavinia spills blood on the book and carves her skin with a knife. When she comes downstairs, she sees her mother's and younger brother's mutilated bodies, realizing that the spell has failed and the situation is worsening. At dawn, Nathan tries to start the car to head to the nearest hospital, but he has no luck. It becomes increasingly difficult for him to control his anger, so he starts smashing things and doesn't return to the house for a long time. Benny and Lavinia try to help their mother and brother, but they only moan and scream. Teresa struggles to ask for water and drinks it like an animal, not a person. Benny notices that time seems to have lost its usual flow. They can't tell when day turns to night or how quickly the hours pass. Desperate to do something for his family, Benny closes the curtain since the sunlight burns the creature's body. After that, Nathan suggests taking Teresa and Jack to the attic, where they could rest and hide from the sunlight. Nathan realizes that with each passing minute, he's losing control of the situation, which only frustrates him further. At one point, the enraged father grabs a shotgun and heads to the barn. Discovering the massive alpacas fused together into a bloody, skinless monster, Nathan executes it. He's in utter despair, knowing this is his business and livelihood. But what's happening now is a fight for survival. Understanding this, he returns to the attic and asks his older children to leave the room. They try to talk him out of it, but Nathan ushers Lavinia and Benny out the door. He prepares to execute Teresa and Jack to spare them the suffering caused by their mutation. Saying goodbye to his wife, Nathan kisses her, but suddenly changes his mind, allowing the monster to live. Ward tries again to speak with Tuma about the groundwater situation, but he's kicked out of the office, unwilling to discuss the issue. After leaving the administrative building, the geologist meets Pierce and a local hunter who has made a horrifying discovery. He brought in the mutilated and fused body of a monster, consisting not only of alpacas but also of Mr. Ezra's cat. Ward realizes that the groundwater situation in the area is far worse than he had previously assumed and decides to take action, enlisting Pierce's support. In the evening, Lavinia and Benny decide to escape from the farm on horseback. While Benny heads to the barn to look for a saddle, the horse begins to behave erratically because the color has affected its brain. At one point, it breaks free from Lavinia's grip and bolts past Ward and Pierce, who are rushing to help the family in need. Hearing a dog's howl coming from the well, Benny decides to save the animal and a family friend. Shining a flashlight into the bottom of the well, he notices some movement and believes that Sam is still alive. Acting bravely, he climbs down and promises to rescue the dog when suddenly the color bursts from the water, taking Benny's life and driving Lavinia insane in the process. Nathan also loses his sanity and instead of listening to or calming his daughter, he locks her in the attic with Teresa and Jack. While he continues to drink, watch TV, and scratch his arms, Lavinia finds herself in a room with the monster, which has completely lost its human form. Upon arriving at the scene, Ward and Pierce try to communicate with the head of the family but realize he is unstable. Nathan continues to see his loved ones around him, succumbing to hallucinations, making it pointless to talk to him. Hearing Lavinia scream, Ward and Pierce rush to the attic and kick down the door. Faced with the horrifying monster, they freeze in place, but Nathan appears and executes his wife and son with 2 precise shots, claiming they are not his family. Ward carries Lavinia out of the house and promises to protect her when suddenly the color begins to surge out of the well. Nathan decides to shoot at the alien creature, but Pierce suspects he's aiming at the geologist and his daughter. Acting preemptively, Pierce shoots at the family man. Lavinia informs them that the color won't let any of them go and they won't survive here, after which she spends the last moments of Nathan's life with him, mourning her father's corpse. Leaving Lavinia alone for a moment, Pierce and Ward head out to find Ezra, hoping to help him evacuate. Hearing his voice, they approach the home of the quirky old man but find only his desiccated corpse and a tape recording he left behind. The man claims that the color is an alien entity that arrived with a meteorite to reshape the biosphere of our planet into something familiar to it. The color can destroy everything around it, as it exists nowhere and everywhere at once. After these words, Ezra's body begins to flicker with light, and Ward realizes it's a dangerous signal. As soon as the geologist and Pierce leave the old man's house, his corpse explodes, scattering the color throughout the area. Ward and Pierce decide to return to Nathan's farm, but the tree, mutated by the influence of the alien monster, grabs Pierce and strangles him. Returning to Lavinia and touching her, Ward sees her memories. The color has come from a distant corner of the cosmos, inhabited by aliens with tentacles. At that moment, the color bursts from the well and creates a vortex that reaches toward the sky. Lavinia disintegrates into dust, forcing Ward to hide in the house. The young man begins to experience hallucinations amidst shifts in time and space, seeing Nathan attacking him and hiding in the basement. Soon, the color vanishes into the sky, and the geologist emerges to find a colorless landscape covered in ash. Several years later, an older Ward arrives at a dam that has been built, hoping that everything has ended. He vows not to drink the local water, fearing that something like this will attack Earth again. As he leaves, he doesn't notice that a mutated insect is still living on our planet, meaning this is not the end of the story. What could be the possible reasons that contact with the color leads not only to physical changes but also to the complete destruction of the character's sanity? Is the color a metaphor for the irreversible consequences of higher powers intervening in human life, or is it a symbol of something unimaginable and alien to human perception? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.